the majority of streams are still in 2022 at 720. Very low bit rate. We're not talking about, ridiculous quality. You just don't need it. Most people are viewing it on a 5-inch screen, so who cares?
Why don't we just jump into your gear? Because last time you were a guest here, you explained how the only thing anyone needed anymore were iPhones. And I believed you. And ever since, all of my IRL live streaming has been nothing but iPhones. I hear you've changed your mind about some of that. Got something to say?
Yeah, I think that whatever you do, you always go for what you have with you. Yes. So if that is your iPhone that you have with you, then that's the best tool for that job. But, my clients and the work that I do has required more. I started, back in the early 2010s in the industry in movies. And so I started with all the high end fancy stuff. I learned so much over the next 5 years that everything forward for basically the last probably 4 years has been shot all with iPhones. And whether it be live streaming or shooting in a Fortune 100 corporate headquarters, we were using iPhones, and that was amazing. But now, for many reasons, we've made the transition away from all of that, and now using, more professional equipment, whatever is aligned with what the job need is. Our main bread and butter, though, the Sony A series, the A7 IV and III are my current, are what's in my current kit, as well as eyeballing that new Sony FX30. Anybody else out there taking a look at that? Let me know in the comments, because the reviews I've seen, that is the one to go with these days. So anyway, that's that's what's up.
Quite galaxy. How much has live streaming changed over the last few years?
Oh gosh. So much. But I think probably the biggest thing that I can say, there's many things that we could talk about and point out for software. Software is so different in the last 2 years, so much more capable. Hardware is so much more capable. I can't speak for Windows Windows systems. I can speak for Apple's products, and their new M series chips across the board is life changing. I mean, that is an understatement. Things we could only dream of was not possible before. We're doing tenfold that on a 14-inch laptop, and which is just, it's unbelievable how different it is in the last 2 years. 5G internet, cellular is almost everywhere these days. Yeah. So 5G as a whole, this is something I've paid very close attention to in the last couple of years, because in all of our testing coast to coast, if you'd run a speed test on like LTE as an example, standing still, okay, cool, got the result. Run that same test now with 5G turned on your phone and see the difference. Upload speeds are almost always at least double on 5G than they were on LTE. And live streaming, hallelujah, that makes life, I feel like it's more easier.
Variable though. Like sometimes some places you can get speeds above 100 megabits and it's awesome, and some days it's as slow as the LTE was, and so the good days are better, but the bad days sort of seem the same to me.
That's I was in I was in another conversation with another pro about this exact topic earlier today, which is, we were talking about Speedify. We were talking about the difference between your internet at your house or whatever, and then going through Wi-Fi for that, and then the differences between 5G is so fast for cellular, But what no one talks about with cellular, and this is something that you and I have dove into a few times, is
Mhm.
the potential tower latency of that speed. You may be able to go 500 miles an hour, at 500 megabit or whatever,
Yeah.
but if it takes 2 seconds for it to process, whereas your house internet is maybe 50 milliseconds in comparison,
Yeah. So 5G is a
2050,
lot better about the latency than LTE was,
it's
right?
definitely better. It doesn't solve all problems for live streaming. And again, friends, I think this is where a tool like for live streaming, a tool like Speedify has come in and helped be the balance, because it can see all this data that we don't see on our cell phone just by, oh, I've got 4 bars, ha ha ha. Well, it's not exactly that simple for saying you got full bars, you got good service, 4 bar or whatever. And
Yeah.
Speedify has that data. So again, this is something that, and I'll continue to plug this. You guys tell me to shut up whenever you want, but like, this is where Speedify comes in and is as an essential part of my toolkit for live streaming. I wouldn't do a stream without it. I'll say that.
So what kind of recommendations do you have for new streamers? For people who want to get into streaming, don't know where to start. Where do they start, Chris?
Yeah. Again, I think the most important thing is do not listen to people like on
Me.
like me or on YouTube or whatever else and say, oh well, the new camera and the new thing and the whatever. We've all played that game. Don't do it. I got 3 things that everyone needs to do if you're just starting out. First off, use what you have. And you're if you're looking at making it better, what is the actual problem that you are trying to solve, and is it an actual problem? I could buy stuff all day that would solve all kinds of itty bitty things that don't really matter for my gear setup today right now, but what problem does that solve other than being out of cash? So start there. Number one. Number two, go back to number one and think about that more before you go fire up the credit card on Amazon.com. And then step 3, really again, go back to step 2 and then go back to step 1 and rinse and repeat. Use what you have, get smarter, and again, learn as much as you can. Fire up YouTube and learn the art, the craft, the skill, the science of video, if that's what you want to do. If you want to be a camera operator or whatever else, learn as much as you can, because the minute you start live streaming, it's over. I could tell you all kinds of things about Wi-Fi, how it works scientifically. I've read so many white papers. I can tell you exactly how it works and why it doesn't work when you go to a convention center. But a lot of those things, all of the challenges and struggles I had when I would go on that professional job to a convention center, and none of my cameras or my gear were working on Wi-Fi, I had to learn those the wrong way. So hone your skill, get better, learn as much as you can, and keep going through that cycle. Don't buy something just because you think you need it. Buy it when the time is right and when your clients, or rather just before your clients, are asking for that new capability or hardware or whatever quality.
So thoughts about how to build an audience? I mean, you've done such a good job. Take it. In the old days, Facebook. I mean, is that still the way to do it?
Well, I would say, obviously look at what you're doing, right? Look at what your message is, look at what your audience could be. Um, there's no doubt that you could be successful on any platform. I've gained some momentum from zero, on Facebook. I have my own Facebook group, SteadiLive Streaming, to where we actually set out to solve some real problems, unlike a lot of what happens in other groups. I want to be very careful with how I say this. There's redundancy in people asking the same questions all the time from the people in that group. They're also, the tide never raises. It's always like, huh, 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 over and over. And what we try to do in that group is people, of course, me, but people beyond me, the community as a whole, is sharing how they're live streaming, what their setup is, what they're using, how they're using it, and truly trying to raise the tide and educate people and empower them to get better, all for completely for free. But how do you get started? Well, I am here now on camera and it's not a problem. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me nervous anymore. But it wasn't too long ago, just a few years ago, I couldn't say, "Hi, I'm Chris Carson." I was the guy behind the camera. I knew I had all the smarts with that. That's what I did so well. But I knew that if I was going to accomplish what I had in mind for goals for myself and my business, that I needed to start getting out there and showcasing to the world who I am and what I know and what I believe. And the minute I started doing that, and you can go back and look at those early shows, they were terrible. Oh gosh, they were so
Okay.
bad. But now looking at the progression and looking at what we're doing, it wasn't wrong. And I've been able to have conversations with people all over the globe about live streaming, and it is so empowering for not only myself but also them. It's unbelievable.
Interfleet asked the question that I should steal and ask every guest from now on.
Oh man.
Worst streaming fail, and what did you learn from it?
Oh gosh. I feel like I've built my live streaming career on complete failure. Like I'm serious.
That's
I'm
me.
completely serious. Yeah, right? Completely serious. My first gateway, my first entry into live streaming was with a director I've shot a couple movies with. He had a project, a comedy sketch show called Live from the Middle of Nowhere. And it truly was. It truly was in the middle, like 5 miles past East Nowhere. And there is no such thing as Wi-Fi out there. There's nothing, no houses, nothing. And so we were using cellular. And so every time we streamed, we failed, right? And we learned and we leveled up and got better each time. But looking at my greatest failure, I have a client that I've had for 3 years. And every year, we're coming up on our fourth annual in next March. Every year, the first year we failed miserably. The stream didn't happen. There were online tickets that were sold and whatever else. The stream didn't happen. There's many reasons for that. Some of it was internet issues, and I don't believe we were using Speedify at the time for that one. Next up, that somehow they called us back for year 2. I don't know how we got the job again, by a miracle. We failed again, but in different ways. What saved us, and I think what saved us with all of our clients, is that just because we were down, it doesn't mean we were out. And that's the thing I think everyone needs to remember. Don't freeze up. Don't stop. Don't panic. If the camera dies, the stream quits, the electricity goes out in the building, just say, all right, cool. I got a battery. Let's plug it into the computer and let's keep going, baby. Because
I guess we are streaming from my phone after all, right?
And that right, and then lastly is this. Again, go back to what I said earlier. If you haven't, rewind, do whatever, but you must know your equipment. You must know your skill. You have to be the best at this. You have to know ISO, shutter, aperture, whatever. You got to know all these things and how they work. So when they break, you know how to fix it. You are the expert. That is why your clients are hiring you. So start performing at that level. And then in any time you have those challenges, those issues, whatever happens, oh my gosh, I got so many stories of failure. You rise up in that moment, solve the problem the best you can, learn from it, and do better next time.